Oh, there, now it's going, it's finally going. Okay.
Okay, we can call this planning commission work session to order, 6:35. We'll start with roll call.
Okay. Tanya Harrison,
Here.
Mark Hall,
Here.
Chris Bolin is absent. Sarah Tremblay,
Here.
Chris Rainey,
Here.
Gail Foodie is absent, and Sean Denadell.
Here.
Okay, so I went through these and worked with them on my computer and made a, table of all the different proposals for each lot, but mine on my computer is starting, so I don't know how helpful that will be. So we will just have to go through individually. On page 55.
I just put 2 scoring sheets for everyone, so you can go through like each lot and kind of go back and forth and make notes or whatever you want.
Excellent.
Just want to walk us through
Yep.
your proposal, your RFP and what would go out.
Okay, so, for the RFP, there's a notice, so you put out a notice first, with the RFP. And then, so it's just this first page here is the notice. And then the RFP is, gives all the information about the lot, what district it's in, or, zoning district and stuff, and then it goes over how what we're gonna ask of them. In the scoring criteria, but for the public use one, where it's what we're requesting them to do. Then it goes through and there's a form that says sealed proposal form, it's on page 6. And that, just basically when they submit their proposal to the city, they'll put all their information in here, what their proposed price is, address, phone number, who they are, that type of info. And then it just gives like, this is the due date, it needs to be to us at this time, this day, 5 o'clock, or it's not gonna be accepted. And then there's attachments here, so attachment A is our scoring criteria, what we're gonna score them against. The first one's how they're gonna craft their RFP, the second scoring criteria is how we're gonna score them. Then attachment B is a plat of the sample site, so like. It could be in like, old, the original town site. So if that's the plat, then where the lot lies, would be attached.
Would you have that highlighted so that they could see?
Yeah, yep, then we would zoom in on the lot, they can see more, a location map showing the subject property, so here's the plat.
Yeah.
And then here's, there would be like an actual map showing the property. I didn't have one for this, so I just didn't put that in there. Attachment D is a sample site plan, so if their lot is a big rectangle, they would do that, they would show the dimensions of the lot, and where the house is gonna sit or structure is gonna sit on the lot, how far away do they meet the requirements, do they have the parking spaces they need, and stuff like that. And then you see on the next page 15 and 16 shows the structure, how tall it is, you know, how wide it is, how far the eaves are gonna overhang, so that you can kind of get an idea of size for the structure. On page 17, I showed just kind of an example of lots 19 through 25, block 6 original town site, how that would look if someone were to show like all of these lots together. The outside of the lot would be this big. Attachment E on page 18 is the zoning code, so a zoning code for that specific district, so that the person would have that in hand to know what zoning code they're gonna be required to meet. Attachment F is a sample lease with option to purchase. So then this actually shows them what type of agreement they could be agreeing to with a lease with option to purchase, and then the next one is a purchase and sale agreement. So they can go through and actually read through the contracts, a sample contract of what could be required. And see if they agree before they even submit a proposal, you know. Or the changes they might have if they did come in and request something different. But then I went on to do, let's see, the proposals. So I did 2 different sites. I did lots 19 through 25 block X. So it's just a fictitious lot or lots somewhere in fake land over here. But that's central business district zoning for the purposes of our exercise today. And there's 5 different proposals for that. And we can go through as many as you want, or if you guys feel like you got it down after doing grading 2 or 3 proposals from here, then we can move on to the next one, or we can do all 5. It just depends on what you guys are feeling like. And then the second set of proposals are for Lot X, Block X, Tidewater Development Park in the Waterfront Industrial District. So, and then there's a scoring criteria at the end, but I also gave you 2 more sheets for the scoring criteria there, so. Another thing I wanted to point out is the site plan diagram. So on each one of these, there's like a little site plan. But how it's laid out is you can just kind of draw the lines there. It kind of gives it a little site plan. So if you look, it looks like this with little like plus signs and then dash marks and plus sign. But that gives you the lot line, and then you can kind of see where it's gonna meet, where the building's gonna sit. So you can kind of draw that out for like a visual. But anyways, wherever you guys want to start, go ahead, we can, if you have questions, ask me or whatever, so you guys.
Well, I went through all these and scored them, but I can't seem to get my computer to start. So do we want to go, did anyone else do that, or do we want to do that together?
I thought we were gonna do it together.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
just read them. So I'm like, okay.
Okay, so let's do, the original town site, block X first. I think there were 3.
I think it's 5 in here.
All right, well, the first one
Can you
is
say what page you're on? That would just be
Yes,
easier.
55 of
55, that's what I thought, okay.
Yep, and that's the Harborfront development.
Yep, I just wanna make sure we're on the same.
So this one is 14,000 square foot site with a 10,000 square foot building. Designed with mixed use, ground floor retail, second floor offices, and 8 residential units on the third floor. So how well does this align with the consistency with vision and goals of comprehensive plan?
What I got out of it, it kind of meets it pretty close. It takes care of just about everything.
Just about everything.
I get it for thinking as well. This is where my table. And then, support for key strategies.
It's the same thing.
Yep. That's what it said. Also give it 10. How does it improve residents' daily lives, recreation, housing, public spaces?
So it did not provide any public spaces, right?
It's
Sidewalk
retail.
with benches,
Oh.
landscaping and rain gardens.
Who knows?
I felt like the
Alright.
little, those chains that come down from like, have you seen those where they catch the water and the rain cascades down from under? Yeah, I thought that, that's what came to mind. with the rain garden.
We live in a rain garden.
Yeah.
We put stuff in it.
I also didn't give this one for the full 10. Also because it does provide residential lots, but they're really tiny. They're studio and 1 bedroom, and, you know, could be some need for that, but it seemed a little bit token.
I mean, it is for the central business district. This is where people. Probably mostly summer workers are going to be, or one of the possible uses are for, you know, summer workers, people. Who are mostly gonna be living and working on their boats, but they want someplace.
Like temporary
Temporary accommodation.
as opposed
So
to
it
permanent
does-
housing.
Yeah, so it doesn't need to be. Huge apartments that, you know, people can put
I
on.
encourage nurses and teachers
Yeah, you think that would be
You don't
a,
have families?
that don't
Yeah.
have, just visit, you know, the ones who come up for 6 months or a year.
yeah, so would you be saying that these apartments would be meeting their need?
They would meet their need.
Yeah, so yeah, my point being is that I think that there is demand for that kind of housing.
There's enough people that need it, but the city, I think, needs more family housing.
Right,
Yeah.
that's,
I think that's our biggest weakness. Need all types.
Yeah,
I mean, 500 square feet is not that big.
no,
Yeah.
not for
But you
our
can't-
climate.
No.
You need 3 rain jackets.
Yeah.
But you can fit more of them than 1,000 square foot apartment.
And why would they want a flat roof is beyond me.
Yeah, that was a major concern.
And
There are a bunch of buildings in the downtown core that do have flat roofs.
Just about all of them, but
I find it very simple.
What if they're using it for water catchment? Maybe they have a heated flat roof.
For the rain garden.
Yeah, for the rain garden, it siphons down and then goes down the chain and.
and ices up the road in front of them.
Right?
yeah, I guess, I would say that this could enhance the quality of life in terms of providing housing. But
It
you
doesn't,
know, the retail space is only, and all in the office space, it's not like this is a business, it's creating open space to then be occupied.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that it won't be occupied.
yeah,
So,
Also, it's interesting that they have workspace and living space in the same building. Somebody could move to town, start a business and also live upstairs and work. So I thought that was interesting. Digital nomads with their own little office space on the second floor.
I gave this some hate, but you guys thinking R10?
I wasn't thinking of 10, but it was better than what I thought the others.
I think it is fair.
8 sounds fair, alright. Enhanced design, without actually seeing this, it's pretty tough to say. I think this is something about cedar shingles and metal roof. And big windows.
Cedar shingle,
Not a great environment.
green roofing. Solar panels.
Yeah, cedar shingles and large windows.
So, yeah, no reference to any like specific architectural style or anything.
I don't think-
Cedar shingle facade, white trim, flat roof with green roofing. Let's see. Yeah, that's mostly all the design elements it says on here, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, it would fit in with the other buildings in the downtown core, so it wouldn't be an eyesore.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think that it could probably be called like particular, and so I'm thinking like a 2 or a 3.
Yeah, I think a 3. 3 is fair. These ones, I actually thought community engagement was community input sought and incorporated into the proposal. A little challenging to get from this, but I think to say, oh, public meeting and letters of support from Chamber of Commerce. For this one. So,
What page is that on?
58.
Yeah. At the very end.
Yeah, I see it.
So,
So you think maybe 4?
you know, when it says, is it incorporated in the proposal? It seems it is addressing a lot of our needs, so I'm assuming that whoever this Harborfront Development Corporation must have asked us. Otherwise, how would they know?
But the meeting was planned for
May.
after this was turned in,
Mhm.
right? So this is dated April 24th. And the public input is planned for May.
Yeah, so
So-
before construction, but after permitting. No, well, permitting
Well,
says
so-
May to July. Yeah, for concern.
So
Yeah, so would the public meeting be for before, like, so it's. After our meeting would be theoretical or hypothetically, but would it be before the city council meeting then? Or is that,
I just took that to mean like you would have your community input before you
Proposed.
propose.
Right,
And this was not.
That's what it seems like it was submit before the public input period.
Yeah.
But they did get a letter of support from Kathy.
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
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 although the letter of support was not included, we don't know what it actually says.
So knowing that, I would score it less than,
okay,
probably like a 0 or a 1, like.
I mean. Like, they are making some nod to it.
Okay, they nod to it, so 2. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
It's, there needs to be room below and room above.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I go with 3. I think that, I mean, it would be better if the public meetings were ahead of time, but they did. If they got letters of support, there must have been some meetings for people to know that this was happening.
Mhm.
It's hard because we don't have all the information because AI made these. So-
The other
And
thing is,
hypothetical.
there's gonna be somebody's gonna put an application in.
Yeah.
It's gonna come to us, it's gonna come to the city council before it goes to, goes out to the RFP.
Yeah.
So at that point, you've already had 2 public meetings that have been done, if they were one of the people who put in initially. So
Yeah.
that would be a strong, because then, well, I'll just do my public meeting when I go, hey, nobody showed up. But I had the planning commission, I had the city council. And I've got their comments.
That is taking into account that it's not a lot that just went out for RFP and didn't go through.
Right.
That-
But I don't think we can you put out an RFP, just say, hey, we're gonna do that, or doesn't even that have to go through the planning commission? Like we were gonna do them for these lots, and then we got an application before we got our county board street,
For which lots?
for the ones by the,
19 through 25.
Yeah. So it has to go through the land disposal process. So yeah, it has to come here, go to city council, and then the RFP gets crafted if that's the choice, and then posted. But also it just depends on if like an appraisal is needed or a survey is needed beforehand, before the RFP can go out. So it just depends on the timeline of the project of how fast it can go. So, like with other things needed. So
No,
if it doesn't have to get the, if it doesn't have to get the appraisal or the, survey, then it could potentially go out like the next day or the next week or something like that, you know, it just depends on how fast it can get out the door, really, but
So like if when we do our land disposal maps and we say, man, this lot, it's been here for a long time.
Uh-huh.
Let's just put an RFP, let's just put it out and see if we get any bites on it.
yep,
So then that it would be scored low because there was no community input sought
Well,
before the proposal. Well, I mean, I guess they could, but
they could
I
have seen
had
it.
a,
Oh, sorry, they could have seen it at the time the RFP got put out, so they might not have had time to come to the planning commission or the city council meetings, because they might not have known about it. Then they see it when the proposal or the RFP comes out, and then they start trying to set a meeting up for public comment and questions like to the public, but how fast can you really put a meeting together? Does it take a month to get a meeting set up, or does it take a couple months? So
maybe that
that's my
needs to be put
question.
into the RFP. Is notes from our planning commission meetings and the city council is what we're looking for. Or why we're putting out the RFP. Because, I mean, it still has to come to us before we put out an RFP, and we don't put it out, actually, the city council puts it out, so. Actually, she does.
You wanna see about
Direction.
maybe add some like minutes from the meetings?
Right, and then it would be, does it comply with these, or is additional outreach been done?
But we also put into, this is what's gonna be required of you, and then this is what we are going to score you against. So they do have that.
Yeah, so they know that
They do know
we
those,
care about community input.
yeah, what's required.
Additional
I'm,
input.
yeah, I'm wondering if the P and Z meeting and the city council meeting can really be are really applicable to the community engagement portion. Just because the language,
Yeah,
it was community input sought and incorporated, and I don't think that that is a natural reading of
yeah,
that to be the PN, like just coming to P and Z, just coming to city council, that doesn't, that's not seeking public input. In my interpretation, but
I would agree.
yeah, is that what you had in mind when you were writing that,
Sorry,
or?
what, can you say that, just, sorry. say that.
So, so in the community engagement was community input sought. Mark was talking about how it coming to P and Z, it coming to city council. Does that satisfy, community input? I was thinking that that wasn't, what was intended with, community engagement. But, yeah, like what were you thinking when you were writing that?
I was thinking it was more. All right, comments we make and the city council make, are those addressed in the proposal? If there's nothing that's even commented, that's a zero. But if they say, hey, the city council wanted retail, office space, and housing on this site. Well, that's what we're proposing per the request from. But it needs to be in the proposal that they are addressing the existing comments.
But what if like Brooke, when she came in, she said. City council or planning commission and stuff talked about these things, but. I'm proposing we put something else there.
Right.
Is that also?
And
fit
then-
your-
Well, then it's going against what we requested, and then she needs to have some sort of other, why is hers better?
Mhm.
And
But is our thought sometimes like maybe somebody has this big dream over here we didn't even think of. And then they bring it to us and we're like, oh man, I never even thought about that. That's amazing. Or, you know, and
Right.
we were just over here thinking in a little square box and
Yeah, I think that as long as that
I don't know.
idea does come with
Yeah, I'm
this
just,
idea of community input, like someone else in the town also thinks that this is a good idea,
Yep.
not just. the
yeah, I'm just
person
not
who
sure how much we should be weighing our opinions, since we are a very small subsection
Yeah.
of the community.
I guess.
Like, we think very highly of our.
Okay, should we move on to economic growth?
Did we ever come to a number for it?
I thought it was a three. Yeah,
I actually rated this lower on economic growth. They did say that they will have 10 employees for management and maintenance, but unless that office and retail space gets used, like we're providing the opportunity for creating jobs, but you're not directly creating jobs other than the 10 employees of the building.
I don't know how you're gonna get 10 people working in one building, just doing building functions. That's awful,
That seems excessive.
unless it's for winter shoveling the roof off.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, similar buildings in that same area, they typically do not hire that many people for those kinds of.
If they say they're gonna have a staff of 10, they need all those little apartments up above for their staff.
Right.
what about if they have shifts and they do like 24 hours? Then they could employ 10 people.
Why would you
on
need
shifts.
24-hour property management?
I don't know, but maybe that's what they do in case there's like an elevator breakdown. Or maybe that's the,
Do they have?
cause I think in here we have an overnight janitor.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's one.
And then your day janitor, so that's 2. But this is a huge building.
yeah,
Anyhow, I mean, that's a little bit beside the point. I don't think, obviously.
I'm just saying that this proposal seems a little disingenuous.
Out of the air.
Well, there is the proposed, the feasibility and timeline. Or financial feasibility. All right, so economic growth,
Out of 10,
yeah,
I mean, I guess on paper it says that it's looking good, but in reality, what would it amount to, you know? Hard to say, but we have to give it a score.
yeah.
Right, because it says 10 employees, but then community benefits is 15 jobs, so.
Is that including construction? Or what,
No.
what are those jobs, I
yeah,
guess,
to be post-construction.
post-construction?
The
Yeah.
community benefits, I don't have any idea what they're saying with 15 jobs. Maybe they're thinking that
The
those are
office
the
spaces.
office
and
space
the-
and the retail space, but again,
I haven't heard.
only if that's actually built.
Well, and I mean, they don't really have any say at this time. What businesses will even want to rent.
Yeah, they're creating business space. They're not actually the business themselves.
Yeah.
So I think I gave them a 5.
Probably your community involvement. long before, to think, hey, these are the people that are gonna want this.
Right, yep, if you could submit, attach a letter to your proposal saying, these are people that would love to have this office space, that would.
Yep.
You know,
I could, yeah.
improve things a little bit.
So you already have contracts to fill the space before you.
Yeah, that would be
build the
great.
building.
It says
Yeah.
included business plan is preferred. So I mean, if they have some sort of idea, not just a business plan for,
We're gonna build a building and then see what happens to it.
yeah, let's put a little work into it and see who is going to want these spaces.
They were claiming, retail leases that it was 80% occupancy. And then the office leases, they didn't provide a estimate of occupancy. But they said that would be 60,000 a year.
They say for office spaces, 2 to 3 suites of 2,000 square foot each.
I have to say, just on their own numbers of what they're aiming to get in revenue stream doesn't pay for the 10 employees they've hired. You can't pay 10 people on that. But anyhow, beside the point.
I mean, I think that's pretty on point. Yeah, certainly there. For financial feasibility would be.
But once again, this is make believe.
It is, maybe in this world, people live on.
We get a real proposal, we can get into it.
Okay, any other thoughts on economic growth number?
I'd put it down at 4. I think.
4?
We disagree with that.
It's just kind of hard to say. I mean,
It is,
I mean, we have to work with what we have.
so.
If it is lacking information, then we have to say that it is bad.
people watching this will know what we're after this, I guess.
Okay, so 4 for economic growth, financial feasibility. I struggled with this one initially. For all of them, and what I ended up doing was just putting in the development cost and the revenue numbers so I could see them all next to each other, and then I ranked them afterwards based on that. So did it related to each other, not related to the potential for that lot, because that's kind of an ambiguous number. But so this one was 4 million. And
4.3 million. With the permits. Right? Oh, no.
I thought that
Yeah.
was a breakdown of the
Yeah,
4
yeah.
million,
My bad.
yeah. And I also was not sure if this was intended to encompass revenue stream afterwards, or strictly how much, what is the asset of the building? So, what is the development cost? Are we just comparing development costs in this? Or are we also looking at what is the proposed revenue stream, which is,
What are the project's estimated monetary value once completed?
right? So does
So
that mean the completed building cost?
I would say the monetary value that it'd be bringing in.
For
um,
each business.
Yeah, for the property owner.
So excluding the development cost.
I would say also, this next one talks about economic benefit to the city, so. I think that kind of encompasses,
Yeah, so that's your tax revenue.
yeah, the tax revenue and stuff, so then that would go off of the price of the building. And
Okay.
the income that would bring to the city for tax revenue.
So financial feasibility is more revenue and the economic benefit is more development cost.
I think so. Cause then that would be, what's the building gonna be worth when it's completed and what's the land gonna be worth after that building's
Okay.
completed?
So the financial feasibility. So is that where we would be penalizing for, as you pointed out, their employees are going to be costing more than they're projected?
I guess, yes. If we're gonna rate this proposal as it's written, then yeah, that would definitely indicate that the monetary value, once it's completed, is gonna be a net loss.
Maybe I just don't get it, but like if I was going to be the developer and I was gonna be putting my money into this, and then I said, these are what. This is what I'm building, but I hope to then, is it sublet? Yeah. This, so I'm just renting for these retail leases. Like, it doesn't matter to me what the owner of the business, like, that's not gonna cost me any money, right? As the building owner. Or am I just thinking that wrong?
I mean, I think what you're getting at. I think, like what we want to know as the city is how much money is gonna be coming back in tax revenue.
Yeah,
So we want to have some assurance that the building is actually going to be getting some use that is then therefore going to be taxed. So yeah, that's the kind of information that we need in order to recommend.
That would be the economic benefit to the city, though.
I think that is in the economic growth. Is,
Yeah, this is where I struggled with these ones, and I did not. I guess without the description, to me, financial feasibility, it would be an opportunity for us to determine, does this proposal make financial sense, and is it likely to succeed based on that? However, the description here makes me think that we're not concerned with that, we're only concerned with what is the value of the building or the project after it's completed.
Yeah, I agree with you on the first, about the first part, like basically. You put $4 million in, you're gonna pay 10 people to do this, and you're only gonna make $355,200 per year, and you're gonna pay them, and you're not gonna make your mortgage, and now this is gonna go under.
Right.
So,
so perhaps we need to,
Change the description
yeah, just make that a little bit more clear.
on the financial feasibility. And again, we will only be able to complete that as detailed as people provide us information, but if I was looking at this proposal, I would have some serious questions about also if their funding stream, like, ends up looking unreasonable. I think that could be another reason to question the financial feasibility.
so what do you wanna see it say? Cause to me, I mean, I feel like that's kind of what this says, so, but is what we've come up with. But I don't know if you guys wanna like clarify it more.
I think that, the once completed is unnecessary, in that, it really, it gears towards thinking of this being a complete, like, just thinking of the completed project, whereas, I would like it to also encompass the actual, building process as well, on whether that is a feasible, financial venture.
Okay, so like building costs versus revenue producing. Like that? Like what we were saying in here, like.
Yeah, I think.
Like, I suppose it's possible, sorry.
No, go ahead.
To have a project, that isn't gonna generate any revenue, someone wants to build a park, it's entirely grant funded, there's, you know. You might not generate any revenue, but you can say, well, that is still financially feasible because you're not needing to turn a profit. However, it does seem like a building like this is gonna at least need to turn a profit enough to cover its expenses.
Well, the park, if the park is on a private property, who's then maintaining it into perpetuity forever? Or do they just then hope that somebody's gonna adopt it, like the city, and then maintain it for them? Because then if nobody goes and checks on the picnic tables and
Yeah.
replaces the boards when they're rotten, or when the wind picks them up and flings them into the harbor, like what,
Presumably it would not be tax exempt.
huh?
Presumably it would also not be tax exempt if it was privately owned park.
Well, I'm saying anything
So,
like
like-
that, like if somebody gets grant money to do those things, then who's gonna maintain them?
Right, and that
So-
should be in the proposal,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, so
Yeah.
maybe it's. I guess I read this, if I just look at the criteria and not the description, I read it as a judgment on the feasibility of the project. If I just read the description, it leads me to. Think that this is, what is the value of the project after it's completed? And I think those things are different.
Yep,
Yeah,
yeah, I hear you.
yeah, so which of those two are we going with there? The financial feasibility
I
is,
prefer financial feasibility
yeah, I think
myself, because I
that's,
think that
that's
everything.
very important.
The value of the project is tied in to
The economic
the
benefit.
economic benefit and,
I mean, even with one employee, there's a economic benefit to the city because that person will be paying
Yep.
taxes and
yep. Yes, I would say that this project definitely has an economic benefit to the city for the housing. If they do fill any of that retail space, they're gonna generate tax revenue from that. So I would score it higher on economic benefit to the city than I would financial feasibility.
Yeah, so I was thinking one for financial feasibility, four or five for economic benefit.
I think I give it a 4 just because as we've said before, this retail space isn't actually built.
True.
So it's creating potential, which is valuable.
And
So 4 for the benefit and 1 for the feasibility.
If they had provided a little bit more realistic proposal, we could have made that higher.
Yeah, or if there was a. And for economic benefit, if they had like some letters of interest for the retail space, then.
Environmental impact.
they got solar panels
That are gonna be covered in snow, but yeah.
or rain. Do they know this is in Corona?
Solar panels, there was some other one that talked about geothermal heating. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
You have to
That was
bury it
funny.
really deep and done a lot of digging for geothermal,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the.
but it does work.
You're talking about, like geothermal heat pumps.
Like when people take off like a whole yard full of dirt and then they run
Yeah, yeah.
tubing like this and it takes
Yeah,
up
so-
from the heat, like the heat from the earth, and then they cover it all back up and then it.
So- Yeah, so the project, were they talking about geothermal heat pumps or were they talking about geothermal electric generation?
I don't, it's,
We'll have to
we'll
look
get
through
to it, anyhow. This one is solar panels, high efficiency HVAC and low E windows. And I'm assuming this is all gonna be modern buildings, so it should be fairly, it should be compliant with regulations,
That's what it says,
so.
and incorporate sustainable features. So I don't know, maybe like a 7. That seems fair. And it didn't go above and beyond, but it's got quite a bit, maybe an 8.
What I don't like is the cedar shingles, while they will look fantastic for a little bit. With the weather that we have, at some point, they're going to be
Right.
right, and
I mean,
then.
cedar lasts a long time, and it's pretty easy to replace.
Um. Up in my neighborhood, she required them,
Yeah.
and the first house built up there. And then there was the log house. They're no good up there.
Yeah,
She's changed it to go to the new vinyl cedar shingle look, but it's a vinyl.
Have you seen
That's
the
what I've got in
concrete
mind.
ones?
I mean, we use cedar on basically all of our buildings,
Yeah.
it lasts pretty good. As long as you
They're made,
seal it.
yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with the 7, 8, anything in that range seems fine to me. Long-term viability, will the project have sustainable benefits and be resilient to future challenges?
I mean, it seems like a pretty Swiss Army knife of a building.
Yep, it does. I don't think any of these proposals actually discussed addressing future challenges, but, I would rank this one fairly high on that, just because it is mixed use.
4 fun.
Or. Track record, I give everybody zeros on this because they're all AI and obviously have zero track record. They claimed that they had past projects, but I don't know if. I didn't really know how to handle that, so I was like, why don't you just give everybody zero across the board?
Or you just take that one and you just say, that sounds good and
Yeah.
let's,
Or that.
or
doesn't
this
matter.
one has 3, that one has 2, like, you know. This one has
Three.
something that just sounds crazy or whatever, you know, you can just go
This one
through and
has two.
rate them off what they actually have.
All
I mean, you
the,
kind of just have to take it.
Yeah,
word for it.
all the ones for this lot have 2. So I don't care, I don't think that's a very relevant one for
They
these
don't-
particular proposals.
They don't have a track record here though.
Nope,
That's,
So then we can make a little category, is it local? What do you wanna see in there then? Is it a local track record? Have they done things locally, or do you just think that they're gonna actually accomplish the build because they have previously accomplished bigger builds than
I
this?
think that's captured in the next one, local knowledge and partnerships.
Yeah,
So I think that
Yeah,
a company that has a track record is good, and I think that someone who hasn't built in Cordova before could succeed here. But especially that would be helpful if they did have some local knowledge and partnerships to deal with their particular workings. But yeah,
I think that's qualified with similar projects.
because if somebody had like gone to Homer, built a mixed use building, this all worked there, and then they can come and show me that they did that, I would believe them that they could do it here, you know? But if they're like, I've never built anything before and I watched a bunch of DIY shows and I'm gonna build this mixed use building, I'd be like,
right.
Yeah.
are
Yep.
you?
And I think that all
I think
these,
for,
yeah, go ahead.
I think for this one, we just kind of have to take their word for what they're doing, but
Yeah.
in practice, we should remember to do some Google and see what we can verify.
Yep, yep, I
How
agree.
would we show, how would they show or demonstrate an understanding of Cordova community? Like, is there something special that needs to be in here to show that?
I think having a flat roof makes you already like, you don't understand what the snow's gonna be like. Like that could be something that makes you think, you know, the things that you say that are common knowledge for here, how are you gonna do a snow removal? Why would you have a rain garden? What are these things gonna do? That can be another tick off of your little thing. Do they have community knowledge? I mean, just to keep
Mhm.
in the back of your head when you're on this point.
one of
And-
those fancy roofs with all sorts of angles on them that. Lights up,
Catch the snow.
Yeah.
like the one that built right below me. They replaced the roof the next year.
Oh, yeah.
This one doesn't have any local knowledge shown.
Yeah, okay, so are we gonna just say track record, they have a history of similar projects?
Um,
Yes. 5, they do, 0, they don't. Alright.
Sure.
I
But
guess I don't, as we can't actually verify this, I don't feel like it's pertinent to this exercise, and I don't want it to skew our scoring when we get to the end. Cause it's things that we
I
can't
mean,
really just.
similar projects, if one is mixed use and one is
Yeah.
residential, so that really does tie into
Yeah.
everything that is in this.
well, one's retail / residential, so they're both mixed use.
Mhm.
So,
I'd say 5.
yeah,
I think, yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
And, okay, local knowledge, it does say they have letters of support, so they've obviously talked to people here. But there's no, partnership
Yeah, they-
listed.
Yeah, they didn't, they don't have any, like, letters of interest, they don't have any letters of support. Barring the one from. For Catherine,
Allegedly.
allegedly, it is not
Allegedly,
included, so
multiple
I'm not sure.
letters.
well, and I mean, sure, the chamber's gonna say, yes, we support new business in.
Right.
In Cordova, so
Allegedly.
allegedly, yes.
So 3, middle of the road, they've done
I-
some, not a great job.
I score it lower than that.
I think 2. Yeah.
Okay, is the proposed timeline realistic and achievable? I didn't think any of these timelines were very realistic or achievable, because they all have been being built in like. Couple of years. These are big buildings.
You got the money to build it,
Yeah, you can make it happen.
you're talking millions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, it would be one building season, because you're starting in August, that's enough time to break ground before things basically shut down. And then,
Whole entire year.
yeah, and then it's January 2027.
Well,
So-
but what if you get a year like this year? And you
I
could
don't
have
think you
built
can.
all winter.
You could have, but that's not really something that you can count on.
No. Okay.
And I mean,
so-
even when you do, construction companies are not going to be banking on that,
Yeah.
like, the Shepherd Point Road, they didn't build all throughout this winter because all the construction crew had jobs elsewhere,
Yeah,
so,
I know that when my parents built their house. I remember the crew being over winter.
Yeah.
They roughed everything in and I remember there being snow on stuff and then shoveling off and then actually putting. Walls up and then getting everything dried in and then they went through the winter doing interior work.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I built my house in the winter, but that's because I had to.
Mine took 3.5 months.
What page does it say that they're gonna plan to complete the project by?
Right.
Oh, spring.
Yeah.
yeah,
This is,
Okay.
Okay,
this would be a much larger
Yeah.
project than,
so is this feasible, 5?
May 2025 to spring 2027.
2 years.
Yep, 2 years completion.
It's feasible.
feasible. I could,
Okay, we'll lowball these guys for. Potential risks identified with clear mitigation strategies, I gave them a 0 because I didn't see that they identified any risks. And there definitely are some. But, I don't know. That's. Your thoughts?
I think this environmental review, no contaminants detected. I think that might be one of those things.
Oh, I guess I lumped that in with environmental impact. Like, are they gonna comply with rules, but. Okay, so you're saying they looked for the risk of
Contaminant.
contaminants and determined that there weren't any.
And they saw that it was flat terrain and that it's buildable, suitable for construction. And risk.
But risk of flat roof, what's their plan for that? You know, water management and rain gardens. I don't know, Potential risks here that
Could
are,
they have done the flat roof as they were concerned about, snow shedding?
yeah,
And that is a way to mitigate that, right? By having a flat roof, it's not gonna shed.
Yep.
So that, I mean, that,
Mhm.
all right. Do we want to?
I mean, I
do it?
I was just
That is,
grasping,
yeah.
but it's,
Let me
there's a
leave
lot
it.
of-
that is plausible, but it was not identified.
no,
So we're almost to the end of this. We're going through each of these, each criteria for each of the proposals.
hypothetical.
So for the first one, which is lots 1925, we're going through that one, so.
Okay, page 56.
Yep. And there's the scoring criteria, and we can share with you our numbers and our thoughts. Okay, do risk identification and mitigation.
I guess there was no clear strategies, right? Or, I mean,
Two,
I think,
one,
two cents,
one or two.
but they did
they did some.
mention.
Compliance with land disposal process. It seems like there's no variances required, so I would say they get a 5 on that one.
See anything glaringly?
And zoning and land use regulations. This is zoned exactly for what it's being built for, so I also gave them a 15.
Yeah.
Okay. Community builders, page 59.
Is this our second proposal?
Yep. This is their second one for this
Lot.
lot, so I'm doing them on the same page, so we can compare the numbers. Um. Okay, this is single-story facility offering recreational, educational, and event spaces. Is this consistent with the comprehensive plan?
Fits, but
It says it does in the executive summary.
I had a little bit of a hard time with this one because it does fit, but it's also, I think they say in here.
Economics. That's sure.
No, there's not much economic in this, no dedicated community center in Cordova. Like, well, what's this?
Yeah,
So I didn't feel like this was a strong proposal because it's proposing, and they're talking about, you know, gym space. We have a gym. We don't need to take business away. We're already struggling to get members there, so. I didn't see this as got geared towards the needs of Cordova because it is providing something that we really already have. So I didn't give them full marks on consistency with vision and goals, because it would have been nice if they could have shown that they were doing something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
or identify a gap.
right. The gaps they identified, we do already have those.
Yeah,
What else
so,
had-
yeah, so what did you give her?
So you would have liked to have seen more, expansion on exactly how it would differ from the spaces that are already in Cordova.
Right, I guess I don't automatically see a need for the kind of things that this is building. And when they say that there is no community space available in Cordova, it says demand, no dedicated community center in downtown Cordova.
Okay, just a second.
That's on page 61.
16, okay.
And so I don't particularly understand where they got that, because we are currently in a dedicated community center in downtown Cordova.
there's lots of other facilities.
There's a lot of other facilities too. And when they talked about fitness classes and workshops and events, lack of community spaces. We have a gym, we have a lot of spaces in town for. Exactly the kind of things that they're suggesting.
Things that are, if anything, under.
Yeah.
Now, if they were the only proposer, okay. But there's other options.
This is another one where the revenue stream does not even seem to vaguely match up with the costs and staffing. So it makes me question, like, what is, like, if this is a private, are we suggesting that we need to have a private gym in addition to our city gym, or a private community space in addition to our community space?
Do we sell city resources to then compete against things that we already
Right,
have?
Yeah.
For the community.
so it didn't seem very. Didn't score high for consistency with a comprehensive plan in my book.
Yeah. I'd say a 7.
7.
I have a question.
Mhm.
What is the break even? It says year 3, does that mean like when there's,
I think that means at which, by year 3, they will have generated enough. They will no longer be losing revenue on a year-to-year basis. Cause most businesses, when you start a business, you're gonna put a bunch of money into it. And you may lose money for the first few years, but once you have established your business and you've established your markets, if it's something you're selling, you will eventually reach a break-even point, and then you hope to get past that.
so
So they're saying 3 years before they reach that break-even.
would this break even be like some sort of contract that they sign with the city on, like this is how much we'll be paying over this first time or?
No, that's just their business. This is part of their business plan. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
It has
this-
nothing to do with development costs.
No.
Okay.
This doesn't really say that they're, I mean, the funding is grants, donations and equity,
Mhm.
so. At what point do they break even? Like, how would they determine their break even if it's grants and donations?
This is also AI generated, so we can't.
You never
Determine
know.
that everything is gonna make sense.
You never know.
Yeah.
But they have 8 employees, so are those 8 employees paid through the grants? Is the funding for building the building? Or is there 30%, is there donations, how they're gonna maintain it? I don't know,
150K per year is fine.
so,
It's not a lot of money.
no, and also if these are memberships, so people are having to pay to use the building. That is odd to me.
So they're paying each of their employees a maximum of $12,500.
Okay, only work super part-time.
Support for key strategies. I don't see this as aligning. with-
Oh, what number did we give them then?
Oh, I think we gave them a 7.
A 7,
for the consistency of visions and goals. Cause I think there is stuff in the comprehensive plan about community space. But I'm not sure how well this, I guess I'd be willing to lower that to
I'd be willing to give it a 5.
5,
Yeah.
alright, 5. Does it align with specific strategies and actions identified in the comprehensive plan?
Yeah,
No.
I don't think so when it competes with city already owned
0?
services and stuff.
If they wanted to take over running some of the city services.
So wait, what are we agreeing on? 0?
0?
0, okay.
Okay, enhancement quality of life.
You want us to sell the darky to them, is that what you're?
Well,
Might
but
be
that's the
cheap
thing,
for
they
them.
put that in the proposal,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah.
could say, hey, we would like to build this gym and we want it to,
Or they could say we want to purchase the darky and then
Right.
privatize it and,
something like that.
yeah.
Good luck with that.
We can discuss that as it comes.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, enhancement of quality of life. Um,
It's additional, it's an additional resource, but it's a resource that already exists.
yep,
Kind of
It's not
reduces the
an
value.
improvement.
yep, and then if it is they're not saying that their gym is gonna be cheaper than the current gym. So I don't know
Better
that,
equipped or anything.
or better or anything like that, like it's hard to say how it would improve. I suppose on the face of it, having gym space and community workshops space could improve life. But I think I've scored this one fairly low as it's not.
But would it improve or would it take away from what we already have?
It could also take away
Yeah,
if we
so-
don't have the funding base, the membership base
Yeah.
to sustain our own, so you could actually end up.
Hurting
If
both
it's
businesses.
more expensive to go to the
Mhm.
private gym and we lose a bunch of people from Bedarkie to go to the, private gym, then we could lose Bedarkie for folks who can't afford the private one, so.
Well, you could lose both of them, because the people could
Yeah.
stay at one, half could stay at one, half could go to the other, and then there's not enough.
However, it's ADA compliant. Better, isn't it?
Well, that gives them some points, doesn't it?
I mean, it would
That's-
improve
Yeah,
the people's quality of life that can't get into Bedarkie.
yeah, that's important. How many
So like the
points?
people from the hospital. With long-term care and stuff could do their actual physical therapy.
Don't they do that in their place in the hospital now?
Yeah, but do they have a full gym at the hospital? Yeah, I don't know.
No, pretty sure the physical therapy gym is just, it's one room and it's all like one-on-one. Like working with physical therapy.
Okay, so we score it, but score it low,
Yes.
like a 2, 3,
Maybe 3.
3. Enhanced architectural design, this building is,
That's what we're giving them a ADA compliant bonus.
it's single story with a flat roof and glass facade.
Sounds like we're,
Sounds, yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds pretty ugly.
but
You
Yeah,
can
it
see
does
the
sound
eye of the
pretty ugly.
beholder.
enhanced architectural design.
Not really pretty glass, you guys.
Green roof.
One,
Yeah.
yeah, it would not really mesh well with any of the other buildings in that area.
no, we don't have modern,
Architecture.
no.
Did this building mesh well with others around it?
I think so.
Maybe.
And it was,
Is this what we give them the ADA perks?
I think this is all about grading.
Yeah, I think we gave them ADA perks in their quality of life. But I think this was designed, like, what does it look like when we look at this building? When we're walking down the street?
Or practical use.
Flat roof.
I would assume that architectural design would mean practicality and then also aesthetics, yeah.
1,
I will say big sheets of glass have a tendency to get shattered in the big windstorms.
higher than 1, lower than 1?
I would go 1.
Was community input sought and incorporated into the proposal? This claims to have a partnership with the Cordova School District. So I did actually give them higher marks for community engagement because of that. I gave them like a 4.
Doesn't the school district have 2 gyms?
They do.
And it might be in competition with their. Yeah.
but it's workshops, maybe they're teaching workshops for the kids.
We don't know what
We
the
don't
nature of this
know.
partnership is, but we can say that they've clearly worked with the school district, so I can.
Maybe they give all the teachers free gym passes.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah, so I don't know if I'd give them a
A 4?
Would you
Because
give them a
they-
3?
I mean, there just isn't a lot of information provided, so.
No, but if they're partnering, we're having to assume that they had some,
It was better than the other?
Yeah, if we have to
Yeah,
compare it to the other one, which was a 3,
Yeah.
That's true.
then we gotta give it higher, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I think a
Yeah.
partnership ways is more, demonstrative of community engagement than a letter of support from the Chamber of Commerce, or saying that you will have a community meeting.
Yeah,
Okay. Cause this they have actually obviously met with people, you don't get partnerships are hard to come by.
okay, I'll go for it.
Economic growth. Does this directly create jobs, stimulate local business, or attract investment?
It's instrumental.
I did not rank this one high on that. Again, they claim 8 employees. But I don't see how. Even if they're holding fitness classes. And there's people that work at there, are there 8 people that work at the Darkie? I don't think.
I bet so.
There's 8 people full-time at the Darkie?
They have a lot of. like,
Volunteers.
high schoolers, so, like part-time.
Part-time.
Well, they have to have people run they have the
Front
Parks
desk.
and Rec director, then they have maintenance, they have, admin staff, they have custodians, I think, and
Front
then
desk.
front desk, at least
Okay.
3 or.
Yeah.
So we're probably around 8 or 10 people that should be working at Bedarkie, I would imagine.
And then there's like volunteers that run classes in there.
So I guess for this building,
And Bedarkie's not fully staffed right now either, so
it's a private
maybe 10
lot.
should be, but there's maybe like 8 there.
Yeah. It's a private, center. It's not, coming like those salaries aren't paid out of the city budget.
And I
So
guess
unless they're
those
getting,
8, 10 people are not paid. A cumulative 100,000 a year. Probably a bit higher.
I don't know, you'll have to go look at the city financials.
Yeah.
either way, like you'd have to be very part-time in order to get 8 people on. 150,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I don't
Doesn't make sense.
I don't see this as really stimulating job growth. Other than the direct jobs that it's providing. It's not like, some of those other proposals where there's opportunity for expansion. There's no residential component, so people aren't gonna. The 8 employees will either have to be local or.
Well, if you had a seafood processor, then a whole bunch more fishermen could buy gill net permits, and then that would stimulate the growth of the economy, whereas this would give you 10
Yeah.
employees.
Yeah, so I don't see this as ranking
Agree.
very high in terms of economic growth. Other than it's a couple employees, so we can give it a low point for that.
You want a 1 or 2?
Let's give it a 2.
A what, I'm sorry?
A 2. Okay, financial feasibility. I also would rank this fairly low, again, for the same reasons. Also, it's mostly grant and donation. Are those local donations? Is that money that locals could be donating to more the existing buildings? Are those out of town donations?
Certainly not the school.
That's more of that competition stuff, but then they're ADA, so, but they don't say that they're specialized for.
No. It just says that they're compliant, but
Wait.
ADA compliant ramps is it, so. But that's the one thing that's ADA compliant, and then you get in the door and now you have to go up the stairs, just like everywhere else. They don't expound on that more.
so 1,
I think.
we lost one.
Yeah.
Economic benefit to the city, long-term financial benefit, tax revenue and reduced city cost. I think this would rank very low.
Yeah, I think this is where, them competing directly with the city, really comes to bite them. But I think maybe even a 0. 1.
One.
You gotta have a 0 for the last one. Never give a 0 to the, or the top. To the first couple of proposals.
There's a pecking order, based by the way you.
Well, no,
You
you-
read them.
If you score them, and then you have to go back and say, well, wait a minute, I gave this guy the full 10 points.
Well, you can always change your mind.
Yeah, then you
That's
have
why
to
you
go
do
back.
in pencil first. Oops.
Okay, environmental impacts. Prioritize environmental sustainability and compliance with regulations.
Do they have any?
Oh, this is the one with geothermal heating and LED lighting. Well, everybody,
Which page is that on?
60.
It says, didn't it say that it's got like geothermal heating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Especially in Cordova.
I don't know
Yeah.
how they would have the space to do it down
I
there.
don't know.
Well,
We'll
they would have,
pretend.
they would have to drill a well.
They could too do it like out in front underneath the parking lot.
They would definitely not have enough room. I've done quite a bit of, research on that, and we're trying to do
Tight
that.
corridors.
Yeah, you have to do, it takes so much room for a building that size.
So,
It would be a very expensive installation, cause that's all very specialized equipment.
I don't know the question.
so given,
What's that?
I'm not interrupting. What is Malabka achievement? Is that?
Nothing. It's,
no, that's AI.
if you know, let us know.
Okay, so assuming that we know that their geothermal heating is gonna be a non-starter, do you
Yeah.
wanna give them a 3?
Yeah,
Is all they got LED lighting? Yeah. I'm just gonna play devil's advocate again for my number, is with the environmental impact one. Are we thinking that 10 is actually going above and beyond? And 5 is standard but not making any effort, and anything below a 5 is actually demonstrating that you have a negative environmental impact? So by those,
I would say a negative is a 0,
okay,
is what I would say.
okay, yep,
Like,
just,
like a 1 is, we are doing absolutely.
with no negative numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, long-term viability, sustainable benefits and be resilient to future challenges with a majority grant and donation funding stream, I would say no.
1, maybe.
1. Good with that? Track record, again, so these made a Valdez Community Hub and Sitka Recreation Center. So I think we can just pick 5, same with the last one.
Yeah.
Because we can't really judge those. Does the proposer demonstrate an understanding of Cordova's community and collaborate with local stakeholders? This one I found was tough because it seemed to me that their proposal didn't have an understanding of our community, because they demonstrate,
Yeah,
they described that there was a demand for something that we already have, but they did collaborate with local stakeholders. So
they
maybe
got a
a
few points.
2 again.
Yeah.
Proposed timeline, realistic and achievable. Their timeline is,
July 2025 through September 2026, so in fall 2026.
okay, that's a faster build time.
It is a smaller building.
It is a small.
And it's only one level.
Yep, it's only one level.
But they're
Um,
doing the geothermal thing.
I don't think they are, but yeah.
I think they might want to, but in theory.
So 4. Same as last one?
I guess.
You think it's less, their timeline is less realistic
Well, because it's so hard to get stuff done
in a year?
in the year. Unless you get really, really lucky.
Or spend a lot.
It's- Small project.
I mean, but as, I mean, I think we pointed out, this is a 1-story building, it's not, it's the square footage, it's not that.
And it's
big.
only 7,000 square feet because the other 7,000 is green space and
Yeah.
a parking lot.
Yeah, it's not that
So
big,
it's not that big.
70 by 100.
yeah. I feel like
So this is like
it's not, it's like a
18
warehouse
months.
space, and I feel like we've had warehouses in town go up in a year.
So it's like an 18 month project, roughly.
Yeah.
So 4,
Or,
okay. Risk identification and mitigation, they also claimed that there was no hazards in their environmental review. But I don't see them as really addressing the other risks or mitigation strategies. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Same as last one. Compliance with land disposal. Yep,
It's compliant.
there's, so I give you 5 and 15.
Because they fit
The zoning.
okay.
Okay, let's see, boutique hotel. Comprehensive plan. A 3-story hotel with parking in the courtyard. Consistency with vision and goals.
goal one.
Yeah. What's that?
In the executive summary, it states the project supports comprehensive and goal 1 complies with CMC 18.
We have several existing hotels in town. So I guess that would be one of my questions, is like, that's what we're thinking about, this is a city lot, what's the best use for it?
But do they meet all of our needs for hotel space?
No.
Yeah.
I think there's still like a need for more housing and accommodations and period. Like,
Yeah, I
Even,
agree.
even short-term stays.
That meet code.
Hello, yeah, that is, we don't have very many of those. We really struggled
We
to
could
find an
really use
ADA
that, you know, like,
place.
even the people that, if they wanted to work on their building, well, if they had this building to move people into until they get that other building cleaned up, it could be a plus to the community.
I know that like, at least with like some of the mariculture stuff going on in the state, that like Cordova hasn't been identified as a community to host events, like larger ones, because there's not enough accommodations to host like their annual conference, because like this year, there was like 300 and something people that traveled to Sitka. And so they kind of ruled out making Kodiak or Cordova the destination in the future because there wasn't enough accommodations.
I mean, I will say that is, supplying for those really large, events. I don't know if, that was really a viable, financial strategy for a business. Because, there aren't gonna be that many of
Like
those.
once every 2 years.
Yes, but if there were more options,
more
maybe
space,
even
more-
smaller conferences could come here and, smaller meetings, board meetings could be held.
Or it could gain, it could help existing events in the community grow,
Right.
such as like the Fungus Festival or the Shorebird Festival or
Well-
Salmon Jam, something like that.
Fungus Festival falls right when sport fishing happens, and so there's no accommodations for.
Yeah.
For it, so it's really kind of a hard time for people to find anywhere to go. But that's, another thing why they built the community center, the Cordova Center, is to hold events in and then. Board of fish, stuff like that, like what if you don't have. What if you have a big turnout, but then nowhere for those people to go? You can't even host these events here, so.
10?
You say 10.
I think so, and at least 9, yeah, 9 or 10.
I'd say 10 because it really. There's. Economic growth just outside of that. Boutique hotel too, I mean, it's. Economic growth for other businesses that will. In turn be. Selling a service or providing a service to those people that are coming to town to stay there, so. It's a 10.
Support for key strategies. Specific strategies and actions identified in the document.
So yeah, so full one.
Economic growth. As
That
they,
seems like a pretty broad.
it does. And I guess this is a support industry to that. Because it's not
It's been a lot.
creating much, it's not a, it's a support industry because you're creating a place for tourists to come, but there's a lot of other components to that. Tourists will come, not just because there's a place to stay, but there's gotta be outside need for that. So I think it would certainly support economic growth, but it doesn't. Not in an indirect way. So 8 or 9? Let's see,
What number?
8.
8.
Enhancement quality of life. How does it improve residents' daily lives, recreation, housing, public spaces?
Does it have any public spaces listed?
I don't believe that it does.
A courtyard with native plants.
But I
Sidewalk
think
with
that
art.
courtyard is open to the public.
Right.
So I gave this one low marks for enhancement quality of life.
They have a restaurant. There's a sidewalk with art and there's a courtyard with landscaping.
And a 2,000 square foot lobby.
Also, I just wanted to point out that, they do have a pitched roof,
Oh, yeah.
just so everyone knows.
So what do we say? Below 3?
Well, I mean,
It has
it's got a
park,
restaurant.
it has park, yeah, restaurant's pretty important for our community.
Yeah, how,
I guess they don't talk,
How
I
big was
barely,
the
I guess that restaurant was in here, I didn't talk about it much elsewhere, so I kind of missed that, and we're
yeah, how
assuming
big
that
was
it's
the
open
restaurant?
to the public,
I mean, yeah, that is,
right? You
Not
could have a
public.
hotel that has its own restaurant that's not open to the public, it's not, they didn't make that clear.
Leasing. parking.
yeah, that's why I was wanting to know how big it was.
Which they don't have to do in the downtown core either. They don't have to provide any parking, so that's actually an extra bonus.
Yeah, for us.
Yeah.
They can buy from somebody else.
That they're leasing parking from. Yeah.
Who are they leasing and parking? Says leased 15 spaces off-site parking.
That's pretty nice.
That's generated revenue for someone.
Mm-hmm.
For something that's already there.
And that they didn't have to accommodate for.
What are we thinking? 8 or 9?
For enhancement of quality of life. I mean,
Yeah.
when you throw in that restaurant
10.
and
Now your mother-in-law, when she comes to visit, she doesn't have to stay in your house, she can stay.
not my mother-in-law, in case she's watching.
Not yours,
I love
but,
it when she stays with us.
and not mine, obviously, but hypothetically.
I mean, I'd say that for a project to receive a 10 and enhancement of quality of life, it has to be completely accessible.
Yeah, and directly for,
Right, I guess. it doesn't-
Everybody,
it doesn't
like I
outline
say,
that it's
if
open
they,
to the public.
Yeah, it can't
they-
just be indirect benefits.
we don't know how open to the public this is.
Mhm.
I don't know that we should assume that it is unless it says that it is.
Yeah, so I could definitely see it giving it an 8. So,
I could give it an 8.
Okay.
yeah.
yeah, I'd go lower. I just don't,
Like 7.
We could really use a restaurant. Really, really bad.
I mean,
I guess I would, like, that would, if that was what it was suggesting, was a restaurant open to the public, but we don't know that.
what's that?
We don't know that this restaurant is open to the public.
Yeah, that is.
That's what I'm saying. It's not saying that this is
And what kind of restaurant?
identified as a need. Yeah, this could be a restaurant that no one in Cordova can afford.
Or one of those breakfast bars that they have it.
Or it's only for room
Motels.
service.
Right, is
Only
there room
for
service? We
people
have
staying.
no idea what it says. In terms of their demand, they're not saying there's a demand for year-round restaurant service in Cordova.
Mhm.
So we're gonna put a restaurant and also run a
Yep.
hotel. It just says tourism. So I would say that this is directed at tourists, not at community members.
So they might
Or,
close
yeah,
it.
5 or 6, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. What do we think? 5 or 6?
Yeah, I think you can.
But
All right, 5. Maybe just the name boutique hotel is what really turned me off. Like, I can't afford that.
How would I feel?
Boutique just means.
Do we do this before we interact with people? Cause you know, I was thinking, wow, if the boutique owner was sitting in here.
We get a lot more information,
Yeah,
of
I
course.
guess. so.
these are really, really thin.
They are.
Mhm.
They're more fleshed out than some of the proposals we get. but-
And that's,
There'd be more supporting documents too to it, obviously, but we're just trying to see if in theory, our theory will work in practice, you know what I mean, like the theory of the scoring criteria. So,
Enhanced design. This was 3 stories. The footprint is 9,000 square feet. And it's wood siding with a pitched roof.
stone
With stone
accents.
accents.
Pretty
That sounds
nice.
great.
Okay. Can we give them a
I give it a 4.
4 or 5?
What are we feeling?
4, as we don't have a picture of it?
Yeah, 4, because we don't have a picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's basically an AI picture on the other side, you guys. Pitched roof, windows, second, third
So
floor,
there's no windows.
restaurant lobby.
Oh,
Restaurant lobby is the next one.
okay.
Oh gosh,
Wood
so we just
siding
have to
and
draw
stuff.
our little. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it tells you the little picture of it, so you can kind of see their architectural design.
Oh, so the restaurant and lobby take up a whole story?
Was community input sought and incorporated into the proposal? I did not see any.
we have a community engagement. Local artists talking to.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that one. Went
No,
up to the
that's
next
fine.
page.
So collaboration with local artists for decor.
That's very nice.
But I guess we're doing our projects, you can help us with the decor. Not on the
Yeah.
proposal altogether.
Yeah, I mean, that could just mean that they bought some paintings from some local artists.
Right, so.
But then that also stimulates the economy that way.
That's true.
But that's not, like,
That's not
that's a
really
separate
community.
category than community
Yeah.
engagement. Input sought and incorporated in the proposal to me means. Did the developer come to Cordova and hear from the people, say, we want this? Okay, all right. 2, 3,
One.
1, 2. 1.
Aye.
1, all right. Economic
Feeling pretty
growth
pessimistic tonight, aren't we?
does, it's fine as long as we're like uniformly pessimistic.
Right.
Does, it helps that these are also not real.
Yeah.
Does the
Yeah.
project directly create jobs, stimulate local business, or attract investments?
A little bit.
A little
Yeah.
bit.
Yep,
How many people?
20 jobs, increased tourism work,
Well, but there's a, what's their actual,
15 employees.
oh yeah, 15 employees, that's a lot.
Well, they've got a
They've got a
restaurant,
restaurant, they've got hotel staff,
cleaning.
yep. Okay. Um,
Yeah, that's a good
Four?
question.
four seem reasonable?
I'm
I would
gonna
think
think it
more.
higher
Yeah.
because it's going to
Oh, yeah,
stimulate.
sorry, that's
local
out of
business.
10, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's out of
yeah.
5. Yeah,
I'd say 8 or 9.
okay,
What do you think?
I think 8.
okay, let's go 8.
8 works, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Financial feasibility. The development cost is 3.5 million, 60% of that as a loan. And they're aiming to generate 300,000 a year.
So yeah, and their past projects, they do have a very similar project that was more expensive. That they successfully completed.
So this is kind of bio.
Yeah, they did the Seward Lodge for 2.5 million, so it's like right in
And then-
between
Yeah, the-
Ketchikan.
yeah, so, yeah, I think,
So we're in Ketchikan get a lot more tourists than we do. But I guess if the idea is if we want to be like Ketchikan or Seward.
But do they get cruise ship tourists,
they don't get people staying overnight.
right?
Yeah. I think. yeah,
Right?
well, they do.
Well, they get a lot
They
more
get it.
traffic than, really doesn't, you either gotta fly in or take the ferry in.
Yeah. I would say their financial feasibility may be a little stronger, although I guess when they look at this revenue. Is that their profit margin or is that their? You know, if that's what they're pulling in, they're not gonna pay 15 employees.
yeah, that revenue seems very low.
In which case, I think they'd be down with a 1.
But also we can,
I also
Would-
think 70% occupancy year round is
Yeah, but
wildly unrealistic.
Maybe in summer, maybe they are only in summer.
It
Yeah,
doesn't say that though.
I
Yeah.
think too, our thought of like our highly inflated prices versus AI doing something for maybe like Southern California thoughts and prices, you know, it might be a little different.
Yeah.
Cause we might have to say, we might have to then go in and actually say in Cordova, a room would rent for X amount, maybe it's like
Yeah.
$250 or $350 a night, and then they would pay the employees $20 an hour, $25 an hour.
And then us tax.
Yep, then you would have to get the bed tax, so it'd be like a higher tax for this hotel than it would be for these. Well, then it would be for the exercise community center. Those are things to think about.
yeah, certainly as written, it does not make sense.
1. Same as all the others.
Yeah. That is just due to AI wonkiness.
Development costs. So will the project generate long-term financial benefit, increase tax revenue, reduce city costs?
If it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
If it works, then yes. So,
I don't think it will reduce city costs, but I think it will increase tax revenue and generate long-term financial benefit.
so 4,
Right, because then if any of those tourists come and they have a good experience here, then they're likely to come back.
Yeah.
So then it's long term.
does the project prioritize environmental sustainability and compliance with regulations? It talks about solar
Yeah,
water heaters.
yeah.
Luck with that. And,
Which paper is that?
64.
On the very bottom of 64.
It does mention wood siding.
Because, you know, those are like marks, those are yeses. Not,
What's that?
not best fit for our community, but then there's yeses, right?
For the environmental sustainability?
I think you have to factor in where you.
Where you're trying to do that.
Well, then.
In California, it might work. Solar.
So I think we gave the last one a 3
Yeah,
for
'cause-
having.
yeah, solar water heaters, that just means a black water tank on the roof. I know.
It has energy efficient lighting. The last proposal had LED lighting and we gave them a 3. And then it also has some geothermal things. So should we give these people a 3 too? Assuming that their solar water heaters aren't gonna work.
Yeah,
Long-term viability. Will the project have sustainable benefits and be resilient to future changes? Future challenges.
This was the one with the pitched roof?
Yep.
Yeah. It scores high.
You think it's fine?
It scores higher than those other ones.
Future challenges is, you know. If the tourism industry tanks, is it gonna be? Is it gonna be able to pivot to something else?
well,
Well, I think so, because there's a lot of other businesses in town that bring people
Yeah.
to town.
Yep,
So it's not just tourists that are staying in our hotels.
yep.
if you look at our longest running businesses, which ones stand out to you?
It's those,
Does have a 2,000 square foot lobby.
Yeah.
So 4,
That's
What
nice.
has stood the test of time has been the Prince William and
yeah,
the, Reluctant and
Reluctant has on contract.
Orca Lodge and, yeah, hotels, definitely.
yeah.
Support.
Yeah, 4, I think 4. Does the proposer have a history of successful similar projects? I think again 5, because all of these managed to, come up with. Demonstrate an understanding of Cordova's community and collaborate with local stakeholders.
A little bit, that parking thing was a good. I think it's.
They got a pitched roof. They understand it, some challenges.
and they realize that we need an understanding of what people are, I mean, they're coming to town and they need somewhere to live, they need somewhere to stay.
And they're doing.
They're not demonstrating that they're talking to people
That's
in
it.
town. But
Yeah,
they,
just based on the description of the building though, it does sound like it will fit into the
Yeah.
local.
I'd be down with a 3. Is the proposed timeline realistic and achievable? Timeline. Opening in spring 2027. That's pretty rapid.
For a 2-story building.
But then they have all this experience saying that they've pulled this off. And Sitka, which is a very hard.
Well, if they
place to-
enclose it in the summer, the first summer. And then they can work on the rest all through the winter, so that's, I think that's really the biggest.
Yeah, what month did they say that they were gonna start construction?
They didn't, so the 3-story building. The other 3-story building, the, retail space with apartments over it was also gonna open in spring 2027. So this, and we gave them a 4. This is also a 3-story building opening in the same time. So that's what a reasonable 4.
I'd say so.
The same. Potential risks identified with clear mitigation strategies. They did not talk about environmental impacts in this one. So
No,
there's been no environmental review for this one. And we gave the other one marks for doing that. We gave the other one 2.
So that's a 0, right? Because they have not identified, even saying that there are none.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so 0. Compliance with land disposal process is 5. I
It
think.
says meets
5 and 50
compliance.
together.
Yep, and 5 and 50.
Can we tally these all up and,
There's one more.
oh,
do we need to do them all?
We don't have to do them all.
Oh.
You guys you can decide what you wanna do, if you wanna do them, if you want to do this last one, or the last 2. Is it 1 or 2 right here, the last one, then that's fine, and then if you wanted, or if you don't, then we can skip it, and then we can do like the 2 out of the other one, or none of the other one, or all of the other one.
I think we're,
Maybe,
it's already.
I feel like we are all kind of on the same page as reading and understanding these and like how we are going to score.
I think getting these sheets to work.
Yeah.
The
So let's-
score sheet,
Yeah, I think the new score sheets are working for us.
Yep, I think the
This
only thing
seems Better than what we had before, but we did, Tanya, you mentioned something, the financial feasibility, like estimated monetary value once completed. That section, I don't know if there's any way we like elaborate that or
I
like,
think we can just change the description on that one to
okay,
make it reflect what we actually are asking out of the criteria.
Yeah. But I think that's the only thing that we were kind of hiccuping over, right?
Yeah, I took notes on that one, so
Yeah.
I have that.
I feel like we all have a very clear understanding that's what we
don't think that actual exercise was to pick one.
No.
It was just to
Right.
evaluate the criteria.
Excellent.
Let's,
Okay, so we don't need to tally.
well, I'm gonna tally it all just to see if our,
If we have,
does this, what the
do
numbers.
we have a clear winner?
Well, and also, is the winner that we were expecting when we were reading?
Yeah, it does.
Does our tally add up?
Yeah.
So in our ask of, so the one that we're having the questions about, the economic development and financial viability, and then it says financial feasibility, then we wanted clarification on that. I just wanted to tell you what they're being asked to do is provide an estimate monetary value of the completed project and its long-term financial benefits for Cordova. Example, increased tax revenue, reduced city cost.
Okay, so we probably.
So that's-
fixed that, too.
Yeah, so I would say that ties into the economic benefit to the city. I think what I understood, the financial feasibility portion is. Does your project, your funding source and your revenue stream match the cost of your project and your
So-
business plan?
I guess I'll give you all the ones underneath that because it kind of all ties together. Detail how your project creates jobs excluding owners, supports local businesses, or attracts investment opportunities. Provide an estimated monetary value of the completed project and its long-term financial benefits for Cordova. Example, increased tax revenue, reduced city cost. Include a comprehensive business plan that outlines funding sources and financial projections.
Okay, yeah,
And then deliverables would be a business plan with financial details, supporting documents, spreadsheets, charts.
so that sounds like on their end, we might not need to change anything, but just in our scoring criteria description. Make sure that we are all on the same page, that the feasibility is.
Yeah.
Tied to, is this project likely going to succeed based on their. Provided financial information.
Okay.
Okay, so we have, the housing development with retail space got 92. The, community center got 54, and the hotel got 80. which seems fairly reasonable to me. So I would say it's worth.
Yeah.
I also wonder, yeah, had we began with the order of when we reviewed, if those numbers would have changed.
Maybe, we kept referring back to them though. You know, like we could say, well, on this one, we gave this a 2. So I feel like we were referencing the reasoning for giving numbers to one and our giving numbers to the other.
And you set a baseline with the first one.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at though.
Yeah.
Is the first one is either gonna be viewed higher, viewed low, and it's gonna set the standard for your other.
But then you're evaluating against proposals versus.
Scoring
evaluating.
rubric. Yeah,
You can evaluate the proposal, or you can evaluate proposals against each other.
And, yeah, we did that. We evaluated proposal 1.
Yeah.
And then evaluated proposal 2 and 3 against.
Yep, and I guess with that framework, you're imagining that one of them is going to win. And so you're just comparing your lesser of your evils. Whereas if you tried to do it blind, you would leave yourself the option of saying, well, none of these are gonna meet the criteria. Because we don't establish anywhere in here a minimum number. You know, I think you said the maximum number of points was 127,
Yeah, I think 100.
and we're not saying anywhere that you have to meet
So many points.
so many points in order to be considered. Yeah, total possible points is 120. So, you know, there are proposals that are not even meeting half that, the community center one. If we had a proposal that didn't meet or met a very low threshold of the criteria and was the only proposal, I mean, that would be a conversation.
Actually, we don't have to accept any of them.
We don't,
So,
but we also don't have to set ourselves a minimum criteria. We could,
Yeah, I mean, I would say that this isn't like a official pass-fail
no.
system. This is for our,
Mhm,
like, this is to help organize our thought.
mhm.
all we're gonna do with this is, all right, city council,
This is our recommendation.
this is our recommendation and this is why. And so we, instead of giving all the points and whatnot, you can just, this one was better because this, and this.
Mhm.
Yeah, this,
And these were failed because they did not have this.
Mhm.
in the RFP, it says the planning commission will review all submitted proposals. The planning commission will then make a recommendation to the city council. The city council reserves the right to reject any proposal, part of any proposal, or all proposals. The city council may accept and negotiate with the proposer deemed most advantageous to the city of Cordova. But yeah, so it did, for us, it says the planning commission will review and then make a recommendation. It doesn't say that if we score you highest, you're then gonna get this, or if you score under this amount. It doesn't tell them like they're gonna get scored off of.
Does city council have a rubric that they go off of, or they just?
I don't know, but also,
So
yeah, also,
they get into politics.
they could probably eyeball ours if they wanted to, so. See what they think.
I mean, is that something that we pass along to them,
We can.
our numbers?
We can say, we should too, is here's our
Yeah.
numbers, this is what we've scored each proposal. This is why we've come to what our recommendation that we've come to,
Mhm.
and it's based off of numbers, and you're welcome to evaluate the same way or base it off of whatever you want, I guess.
Right, yeah, so that was my thing, like, are they, if they have the same as us, or? I just think that us giving them our numbers.
Yep.
Like, is very, this
Yes.
is why, this,
Yep.
Right.
and so if you've got a different reasoning. I'd love to hear it, and, you know, how
Yep.
did you come up with such a different? Recommendation than we did?
Yep,
Or
Yep.
different conclusion.
Yep.
I think we're gonna get a good test here
I
shortly.
think so.
Do we-
I think it was good we did this before we
Yes.
get anything
Yep,
else back, so.
absolutely, it's very helpful.
Yeah, so for the next P and Z meeting,
Mhm.
will we be using this rubric? Or is it too early yet?
So basically at this point, we don't have anything to go for the 13th.
Okay, yeah, so
There's no RFPs on the street, right?
they haven't come in yet.
No,
No, there's one that's going out and that won't be coming back until the June meeting, so.
but when's RFP go on the street? It has this information, huh? Tomorrow, so you're gonna crunch this out tonight and throw it in, or is it already?
Nope.
It's going in as is.
Yep.
So,
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm. Feel good about this, everyone feel good, or do we wanna tackle the last section?
I
I
feel
feel
good.
very good.
Yeah.
Do you
Okay,
guys, do you
2
guys
hours
even,
is solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
not doing the.
I was gonna say, if you guys did wanna just do one through here, but like try to make it happen quickly, you can see if for some reason this zoning district or something makes you change your mind on something.
Because this is.
You're highly encouraging us.
Well, I just think
Can we
that,
take it with us?
yeah, you guys
And
can
we
definitely take,
email you if we have
Yeah.
any,
Okay.
I mean, I
Yeah.
went through them. Myself, and didn't, like, other than the ones,
oh,
things we already talked
any in the
about.
back.
Like nothing stood out to you.
that made, no, other than, the normal.
Yeah.
Thing.
I do think this exercise was good.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think it'll make us better the next time we get some real proposals.
Yep.
we're gonna get two, at least,
Yes.
on those,
Yeah.
maybe.
And Tanya, did you have any more, things to add about when you did score the Tidewater Development Park?
I was gonna say that was, I didn't come up with anything new for this one over what I had already come up with on the other one.
So it felt pretty uniform from what we just did?
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
I mean, again, some of these things are not, you're gonna score them differently.
Yep,
Cannery isn't gonna enhance residents' quality of life. But,
If it provides jobs, it will.
if it provides jobs, it will, but what they're talking, I think specifically like housing, recreation, public spaces, that kind of stuff. It does way more in terms of the economic growth,
Yeah.
so like, I think that those things kind of balance each other out. So I. Apartment building is gonna have a very low economic growth number. Can't have a very high. It worked for me.
okay. I think that's good then.
And I guess if anyone feels up for going through it, we can see if there's anything that comes out of it.
Sure.
Yes. Wonderful, we are adjourned. That was a long meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.